The days of the flowery what to expect when you're expecting, they are past us. Me and Dana, we are off to fight another day. Caramel break. I swear a big shaggy dog just came and shook off all over me. What? What is that smell? Oh my God. It's me. Nothing feels crappier than huge, heavy breasts with nothing to hold them up. Resume relations, if you know what I mean. Whew. Here are the changes you might experience after you have a baby that no one's talking about. I feel like I have to preface this video by saying I actually really love pregnancy. I love being pregnant. I love having the baby. And I even love like the early postpartum stuff that's going on, the whole newborn thing. However, that does not change the fact that there are some really gnarly things that can happen to you once you have your baby. And so the days of the flowery what to expect when you're expecting, they are past us. Let's get into the nitty gritty, the real life stuff. Let's talk about what might be coming your way now that you have had a baby, because there are 7 body changes that I want to talk about here today. And like I said, I like pregnancy. I did it 4 different times. My name is Tina. I'm a mom of 4, but I am also a certified perinatal nurse and a certified breastfeeding specialist. Now, if it is your first time here, this is what we do here. We talk about the real life stuff. So if that interests you, go ahead and boop that subscribe button right now. And if it's not your first time here, welcome back to the chaos. You know what we talk about here. Let's get into the first thing that you might expect from that new postpartum body. First thing I want to address is the flow down below. Now, this is everything coming out of you after you have a baby, and it's known as lochia. Now, there are different phases of lochia. That first phase of lochia, right after you have a baby, it's around 3 to 4 days, and this is the heaviest vaginal bleeding that you'll experience after your baby is born. And a lot of people, they're quite surprised with how much blood is going to come out of them. And P.S., you are going to bleed from down below, whether you had your baby vaginally or your baby took the sunroof exit. So however your baby came out, you will still bleed vaginally. Now, this flow, if you have heavy periods, it might not be that surprising, but it's not just blood that's coming out of you. It's basically everything that your uterus was housing. So it is blood, but it's also amniotic fluid, and it's tissues, and it's membranes, and it's amniotic fluid. It is all of those goodies that is inside of you. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about is that it surprises people what it smells like, because it doesn't really smell like your typical period, which a lot of people are expecting it to. The only way I can describe this is that it sort of smells a little bit earthy. Like if you were to put your nose right, hold on. Oh, uterus down. Whoa. If you were to put your nose right inside a houseplant and give it a big old huff, that dirt smell, by the way, this actually doesn't smell like dirt because it's plastic. It's from IKEA, but that dirt smell, kind of earthy. And then if you were to take a big handful of pennies and give them a big huff, by the way, we don't actually have pennies here in Canada anymore. Anyway, give that big huff and it smells kind of metallic. That's how I describe it. Kind of earthy, kind of metallic. Other people are like, it just smells different. And that can be a little bit surprising for people. What I do want to say is that it shouldn't smell fishy or foul or pungent. It shouldn't be offensive to you. If it is smelling offensive or it's smelling quite foul, that might be an indicator that there is an infection brewing, and you should definitely tell your provider about that as soon as you possibly can. Also, we're not going to be using any harsh cleansers or cleaners down below because of that smell. It is still best to only use water in your peri bottle and give it a nice spray, because if you're using those cleansers inside and outside, it can actually lead to a worsening situation because it can lead to irritation and infection. While we're talking about smells, I also want you to know that you might have BO. Yeah, body odor. You might stink after you have a baby. And that is because you are going through one of the biggest hormonal shifts you will experience in your entire life cycle. And just like back in high school, back in puberty, those hormones that caused you to be your stinky self back then, well, they've circled back around, and they are going to play a major part now if you do develop body odor after having your baby. I had it with babies 2 and 4, and it was like, what is that smell? Oh my God. It's me. So if this is happening to you, this is a total normal experience. This will go away with time. But remember, you are a new parent now, and very likely you have small windows of time throughout the day to do the things that you need to do, the things that are on your priority list. And having a hot shower to wipe away the armpits and the crotch smell, that may actually take a lower precedence over like a Cheetos-induced nap, because you need to eat, you need to sleep, you need to have time to yourself, you probably have things you want to get accomplished, and you have to shower. So just sort of keep keep that in mind when you're trying to prioritize things. Also, your sense of smell is going to be more heightened than anybody else who was not just pregnant or just had a baby. So what you are smelling, other people may not smell it as strongly, but I do know that like I could really, really tell, and it really, really bugged me. Also, you are going to be sweating a lot now that you are postpartum, and that can also add to the stink. So all of these things are going to come into play. All of these things are very, very normal. And again, we sort of need to, ride out the stink waves until they, peter off into the sunset. I love these. Caramel break. Yeah, sweating. I said that because night sweats is another thing that is really, really common for people to experience after they have a baby. And once again, big bad hormones. That is who we can thank for this one as well. You're having those big hormone shifts, which can leave you soaking wet in the middle of the night. Like 3 a.m. when you sit bolt upright and you're like, I swear a big shaggy dog just came and shook off all over me. It's not like a little damp, you are soaking wet. Again, very normal, but super, super annoying. You gotta ride this one out for sure. There's a few things that you can do that might help. I always did like a pee pad, like one of those little toddler pee pads that went from sort of like my head to just below my knees. I would put that down, and then that way, if I woke up soaking wet, I didn't have to like wake up my husband and change all the sheets. I just took that pad off of the bed, and I was able to lay down on a nice dry bed. Also, bamboo fabrics in your pajamas or sweat wicking fabrics in your pajamas can be really helpful. You may want to have a fan by your bed, though it's not really caused because you're hot. It's just caused from your hormones. Also, if you have a lot of IV fluids in your labor, this is also a way for it to be coming sort of out of you. So night sweats, very, very common. You need to know that the pain of childbirth, it is not going to magically suddenly stop. What? Okay, the contraction pain that was there when you were delivering your baby, it is going to stop now that you are holding your baby in your arms all snuggly. However, enter into the ring something known as after pains. Now these after pains, they are coming because your uterus is doing something called involuting, which means it is shrinking back down to its pre-pregnancy size. And to do that, it is going to cramp and it is going to contract. And these are known as after pains. And a lot of people describe them as really, 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 really painful menstrual cramps. I would totally attest to that. And these pains that you might experience, known as after pains, they might be more intense the more kids that you have had. I have 4 kids, I will agree with that. And they are likely going to be more intense if you are breastfeeding. Again, I will agree with that. And that makes sense because when you are breastfeeding, your body is releasing oxytocin, and oxytocin is responsible for that clamping and contracting down. Now, there's not a lot that you can do with these other than wait them out, and they do sort of dissipate in the intensity of them as time goes on. But what you can do for symptom relief is very similar to what you would do for period cramps. So you can use a hot or a warm pack over your abdomen, and then you could take Advil or ibuprofen as advised by your provider. If you have itty bitties, but you always wanted like the big gazunkas, and this next one on the list may not be as bad for you as it is for everybody else, but it is engorgement. And it's something that a lot of people go through postpartum. So when your baby is born, and if you are choosing to breastfeed, you're going to put them on the breast, and they are going to suck and suck and suck and suck and suck and suck and suck like you have never seen something suck before. They're doing this for a couple of reasons. One is that they want the colostrum. That colostrum was in your breast before baby was even born, and it is so good for them. They are also doing it because it is instinctual. They have a suck reflex and they like to suck for comfort, but for so many other different reasons. And then the last reason is that they're trying to drive your milk supply. So having that stimulation at the breast, it is really important to have that milk transition from colostrum to more mature milk. And the more that they are sucking, usually the quicker this happens and the more efficiently this happens. However, a lot of times babies' eyes are bigger than their stomachs, literally, because babies' stomachs are about the size of a cherry when they are born. And so they suck and suck and suck and suck and suck. And because this is supply and demand, your brain gets involved and they're like, hey, oh, whoa, this baby's now on the outside. It's not attached to the placenta anymore. We need to get it straight from the tap. Let's get this milk production going. And eventually what's going to happen in around, 3 to 5 days after baby is born, that milk is going to come in a big influx. And you're going to have breasts that fill up with milk. However, you have a little baby with a little stomach, and now they have all this milk, and they don't take all of it out of your breast because, that would be like a big Thanksgiving dinner with the stretchy pants. It would be really a lot of milk for them. So you have an influx of milk and you only have a removal of a tiny amount of milk. And so that milk has nowhere to go except to fill up your breast tissue. And then that breast, it gets rock hard, like a bowling ball. And it can be quite painful and quite tender to touch. It's known as engorgement. But rest assured, a lot of people do go through engorgement. So here's what you can do for engorgement. First off, please, please, please do not remove huge amounts of milk from your breasts because you are engorged. This is going to tell your brain, hey, oh, perfect. We gave them all this milk. They used all that milk. We better continue with this volume of milk. So if you are needing to remove milk for comfort, that is totally fine. Just do a little bit till you feel comfortable, either by hand expression or with a hand pump. And then you can use an electric pump if you want to, but I would use it on a lower setting so you're not causing more swelling. The other thing you can do is hop in a warm shower. Let your breasts dangle. Let that milk sort of drip out to the point where you feel more comfortable. And then if you're not in a warm shower and you're not trying to remove a little bit of milk in between those sessions, you can actually apply ice or cold packs. Just make sure that there's something between that ice pack and your skin, and that's going to help to reduce some of that swelling and discomfort. You can also take those over-the-counter anti-inflammatories like Advil as you are advised. And you always want to wear a nice supportive bra because nothing feels crappier than huge, heavy breasts with nothing to hold them up. You're going to have an appointment at 6 weeks postpartum with your provider. They're going to check in and see how you're doing, but they're also going to examine down below, make sure everything is healing well, make sure there are no signs of an infection. And if all of those things check out, you are likely going to be given the all clear to resume relations, if you know what I mean. Which is great news for your partner. However, come here, hear me please. 6 weeks is just a recommendation. It does not mean if you're cleared at that appointment that you have to drive straight home, walk in the door, and hop in the sack with your partner. Unless you're into that, in which case, I mean, get yours, girl. But a lot of people in the postpartum period, they experience a decreased sex drive, and that is very, very normal. There's a lot of things changing and happening in your life mentally because you just had a baby, but let's talk physically for a second. You might still be bleeding vaginally. You might be healing a perineal injury or have an incision if you had a C-section. We just talked about those breasts. They might be big and full and uncomfortable and heavy. They might be leaking milk. All of those things are going to contribute to a decreased sex drive. Also, heads up, your hormones, they are changing, right? You're going to have a big dump of estrogen and progesterone, and that's likely going to lead to vaginal dryness. And like extreme vaginal dryness, like Sahara Desert vaginal dryness. And you can imagine having intercourse with a vagina that feels like sandpaper. Again, it's not very sexy. And again, will contribute to that decreased sex drive. Also, we discussed how you might be feeling smelly. You may not have time for a shower. You may be hungry or needing a nap or needing some time to yourself. And that time to yourself may not involve sexy time with your partner. And that is totally okay. Also, sometimes there is resentment within the relationship. Even the healthiest relationships can have resentment because you are bringing a baby into the mix, and that is totally okay, but it may contribute to a decreased sex drive. So that is very, very normal. Your provider might say that you need a vaginal moisturizer or a vaginal lubricant. Chat with them about your issues, but for sure, give it time, give it healing, and remember, it is all a process. I saved the one that personally stings me the most for last, and that is postpartum hair loss. This sucks. There really is no way to sugarcoat it. But it is really, really common, and postpartum hair loss often peaks around 4 months and then starts to sort of taper off when your baby turns 1 year old. So, happy birthday to you too. But dermatologists, they don't actually call this hair loss. They actually call it natural hair shedding because it is actually expected after you have a baby due to those falling levels of estrogen. And I used to dread having a shower because the amount of shedding that came out, it was like I put a whole Wookiee on the wall of my shower every single time. And it can be really, really distressing. But again, there isn't a lot that you can do for postpartum hair loss. That does not stop companies, though, for preying on these vulnerable populations of people who have just had a baby and who are now losing their hair and freaking out about it from trying to sell you miracle treatments that are going to bring your hair back. So just know that there isn't really much that you can do, that your hair will grow back. And this is a natural part of going through your postpartum journey. I actually hated it so much that I invested in hair. This isn't mine. This is a wig. And it's the best thing I've ever done because I just got so self-conscious after having 4 shedding cycles with no regrowth. I got no hair under here, but man, I love my wig. And on that glorious note, me and Dana, we are off to fight another day. And you can check out this video here. Now that we've talked about the unexpected things for you, you can look into the unexpected things that might happen with your baby. I hope you loved this one. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Both me and Dana would love that. And as always, be happy, stay healthy, have fun. Bye.